just felt so disorganized, or maybe even chaotic. Things are not as they seem. Boy, when am I ever going to learn that lesson? Things are not as they seem. Good morning, good morning. I'm Elizabeth Inman. This is our 1-year daily Bible study. Reading all the way through the Bible together. I think it's day 63, I believe. Yeah, day 63. Whew. It's already going fast. It's March. We're almost a quarter of a way through. My goodness. Be sure and put your prayer requests in. Type them out for us. Say good morning to us so I can see who's on. Dawn's on with us this morning. Good morning, Dawn. It's always good to have our community together. Hi, Debbie. Good morning, good morning. I'll tell you what, Debbie Nolan just blessed my socks off and Leslie's socks off yesterday. She's good at that. Okay, prayer requests, praise reports, say good morning to us so we can see you. Go to the Dream Big Today Facebook page and follow that page, or subscribe to the YouTube channel called Dream Big Today. That's where we find our Bible study. Good morning, Cassie. Good to see you. There's Nancy. Good morning. We're reading in Numbers. I'll tell you what, yesterday, reading in the end of Leviticus 27, we saw where whatever the enemy takes from us, God restores to us by a fifth, 20%. I bet I spoke that 4 or 5 times yesterday. Situations came up, conversations happened, and it was just right there in our face, right there in our face. I so enjoyed Leviticus this year, so much deeper. There's our other Debbie, and Andy's on with us. There's Leslie. It's amazing how these scriptures, when you continue to read, you know, I've not talked to anybody that the very first time ever that they read Leviticus or Numbers, that they went, oh, this is so deep spiritually. But when you don't give up, never ever give up. You keep reading. You keep asking God to allow you to read it spiritually, to give you spiritual meaning for your life right now, today, and He will sure do it. Good morning, Paul. Jan, God's just so good. He's so good. So let's dig into today's readings, and I love how it's all tied together. So we just got through reading about the tabernacle. Now God's going to speak to us about the numbers, about specific tribes, the tabernacle, and then Jesus walking through the temple area in Mark chapter 11, and then even in the Psalms, and then ending it with the Proverbs. It's like Proverbs today just wraps it all up for us. But let's get started. Numbers chapters 2 and 3. You know, this book reveals to us God's order. I'm all the time saying that there is a divine order, and we serve a God of order. And that's what the book of Numbers is all about. It's about His people. It's about His presence. And not even just His presence, but how His presence stays central. Because He placed the tribes all around the temple. So the temple is here, and there is a divine order to the way He placed them. A tribe here, a tribe here, a tribe here, a tribe here, a tribe here. The temple, the tabernacle, a tribe here, and then tribes. All the way around, with God being the center. Every person has a divinely ordered place. Even the banners had an order to them that represented a symbol. You know, Numbers chapters 2 and 3, speaking through Christ, speaks very, very deeply to our identity today. Our identity today. Who does God say you are? It speaks to your calling, and it definitely speaks to our daily walk with Christ. God places every person in the reading where they belong, today where we belong. Numbers 2:2 in particular, each tribe was placed in a specific area right around the tabernacle. Our life is not random. God is intentional with each one of us and where he has us placed, just as he did in today's reading. Chapter 3 says this is the family line of Aaron and Moses. It was recorded when the Lord spoke to Moses on Mount Sinai. God absolutely, he set it all up in our reading. God stayed the center. The tabernacle is the center, but God must remain central in our lives, in everything in our life. Because life only works when God is at the center. When we get off center, our life gets off center. When he is the center, then our work aligns. Our ministry aligns. Our decisions become clear when God's at the center. Peace increases. I heard somebody today say, you're asking God for guidance. You sense he's telling you to do something, but you're just not sure. It's not a clear voice. It's not a thus saith the Lord. You don't have your guiding scriptures yet. And this person said that it's like a boat that's docked. You get in the boat and you think you're supposed to go somewhere, but you're just not sure. You're not going to get in that boat. God bless you. You're not going to get in that boat and speed away. You're going to get in that boat. You're going to untie it, you're going to start it up, and then you're slowly going to start motoring, and then eventually it becomes clear. I thought that was so cool. So cool. Good morning, Eileen. Good morning, Debbie. There's Mama Mary. There's Sherry. Oh, it's so good to see all of you guys on this morning. There's Ann. Miss Ann's on with us this morning. So there's so much meaning in these scriptures for us. You know, each tribe, as I mentioned, had a banner. That banner represented their identity. I mean, you didn't have to guess because the banner is there. God bless you. Well, in Solomon chapter 2, verse 4, it says that his banner over me is love. This represented their identity. And it speaks to us that it's very important that we know our identity. Now, isn't it interesting that the Levites was positioned closest to the tabernacle? You could say the closest to God's presence. The Levites were set apart. Their job was to guard and to serve God's presence. Their calling was different. Their position was different. Their calling was always special to God's nearness. And you know what? They weren't called to be superior. They were actually, so think about this. They were not called to be superior, but they were called to responsibility. We are called to responsibility in the kingdom of God. Their role was to teach. Their role was to lead, to minister, and to shepherd. You know what, Wendy? That's our call. Exactly what we're reading about in today's scriptures. That's our call. 1 Peter 2:9 says, "For you are a chosen generation, a royal priesthood." That's to you. That's to me. We are a royal priesthood. So when we read about the Levites, we're reading about us. And then isn't it interesting how God replaces the firstborn? You know, right after the Passover is when he claimed the firstborn. We remember that story. But here he replaces the firstborn with the Levites. With the Levites. This points directly to Jesus. Can you see it? Romans 8:29, Jesus is the firstborn among the brethren. And then Colossians 1:15, the firstborn of all creation. Jesus is the firstborn of all creation. Our life belongs to God because God redeemed us through Jesus. You're not your own. That's what 1 Corinthians 6:20 says, that we were bought with a price. We're not our own. And then I just love that as I'm reading through this, as tedious as it can be sometimes. I mean, Reuben, Elizur, son of Shadar, 46,500. And then Simeon, Shemuel, son of, I can't say that word, Zurishaddai. Maybe I can say Zurishaddai, 59,300. And then Gad, Eliasaph, son of Duel, 45,600. Yeah, not necessarily the most fun stuff to read today. But it is driving home the point that God is the God of order. The tribes, the families. He recognizes all of this. He recognizes the tribes. He recognizes our tribe. He recognizes our families. Family is important to God. I mean, you can't read these words and not understand how important family is to God. And when you read how important family is to God, then when you have that prodigal son or daughter, when you've got that wayward family member, when you read this, it gives you hope that God is a God of unity. God is a God of order. Family matters to God. It is important. And then you certainly can't read these scriptures and not realize that identity matters. What tribe you're from matters. Your ancestral background matters. And then numbers matters. And location matters. Where you are matters to God. And when you give yourself to him, he'll place you right where he wants you to be. God works through divine order. 1 Corinthians 14:33 says that he's not the author of confusion, but of peace. Without order, there is no peace. So, started this off by saying, have you ever felt like your life was just unorganized, just disorganized? Maybe, just maybe, when you're feeling that way, when you're his and you're feeling that way, maybe, just maybe, God's repositioning you. I know we have somebody here at the table today going through what looks like a major chaos. The daycare, first daycare closed, second daycare closed. There's not a daycare available. And yet this single mama's got to work. It looks like chaos. We spoke this morning that maybe God's just repositioning things. And then God's presence moves with his people. They picked up the tabernacle. They packed it up. And God's presence moved with them. We're never without him. He lives in us. We are the tabernacle. God moves with us. He's always with us. He never leaves us, never forsakes us. And then Mark chapter 11 and 12, as Jesus was walking through the temple area, there's the leading priests, the teachers of the law, and the elders came up to him, and here they are making their demands of him. By what authority do you do these things? And I love how he answered them. I'll tell you when you tell me. So, of course, they conferred with one another, and they just decided that they couldn't win. So they just say, I don't know. And Jesus responded, then I won't tell you by what authority I do these things. I love reading how he responds to his enemies. When he chooses to speak, when he remains silent. Then he starts telling them stories. The story about the man who planted the vineyard and sent his servant out to collect his share of the crops and what they did to him. Sent the next one, and then he sent his son. Surely, verse 6 says, surely they will respect my son. Surely they will respect the Son of God. Do we? Do we? Of course, we know what they ended up doing to the son of the farmer. The same thing they did to the Son of God. The stone that the builders rejected has now become the cornerstone. This is the Lord's doing, and it is wonderful to see. Y'all realize that God literally, as somebody shared with me yesterday with tears in his eyes, wrote the entire law knowing that he would shed his blood to fulfill it for us. All the while these pages was being written. This is the fourth book of Moses in Numbers. Numbers is the fourth book of Moses. All the while God's writing this, he knew he was going to sacrifice his son to become the cornerstone. Wow. Then, of course, they try to trick him up about the taxes. It's tax season right now here in America, tax season. Who likes to pay taxes, right? Well, what a blessing that we get to pay taxes. That means that we had provision. Jesus saw through their hypocrisy and said, why are you trying to trap me? Why are you trying to trap me? Are we trying to trap him? When we try to finagle and do away with our taxes, when we try to cheat on our taxes, are we trying to trap Jesus? Give me a Roman coin and I'll tell you. So they handed it over to him. Whose picture stamped on it? Caesar's, they replied. Well, then Jesus said, give to Caesar what belongs to Caesar, and give to God what belongs to God. You know, one of the things about the book of Leviticus with all of those offerings, sacrifices that had to be done, we get so caught up about the tithe. We get torn up inside. Do I tithe on the gross? Do I tithe on the net? Why do I have to tithe? Oh, the tithe has been fulfilled. I don't have to tithe. How can you read about all the offerings and the sacrifices and not realize every person had to give their firstborn animals, the animals without blemish, their turtle doves, their grain, their wine? They gave and they gave and they gave at a time that just raising a bull, feeding a bull through the winter. I have a hard time wrapping my brain around all this. Talk about sacrifice. Was the sacrifice really the cutting of the throat and the blood pouring out? Or was the sacrifice getting up 7 days a week, feeding them, watering them, checking them, protecting them, making sure they were blemish free? They gave and they gave and they gave. But you know what the bottom line is about all of it? If you're struggling with tithing, if you're struggling with offerings that's over and above a tithe, if you're struggling with helping out somebody who is less fortunate than you, somebody needs a new coat, Somebody could use a new pair of shoes. If you're struggling with that, as we read all of these scriptures in Leviticus and Numbers, you want to know what the bottom line is? The bottom line is God provided for the people preparation, order, provision for every offering and sacrifice made. Every time they had to lead a lamb to the altar, God had provided more than enough. The Lord is my shepherd. I have all that I need. Man. And then the Psalms, so good. Come everyone, clap your hands, shout to God with joyful praise. For the Lord Most High is awesome. He is the great King of all the earth. He subdued the nations before us, which is what we're seeing. God's divine order. He has ascended with a mighty shout. The Lord has ascended with trumpets blaring. For God is the King over all the earth. Bottom line, God is the King over all the earth, whether you believe or you don't believe. It doesn't change. He is the King over all the earth. We can choose to praise him with a song. God reigns above the nations, sitting on his holy throne. The rulers of the world have gathered together with the people of the God of Abraham. For all the kings of the earth belong to God. He is highly honored everywhere. And we'll wrap it up with Proverbs today, because this wraps it up. The fears of the wicked will be fulfilled. The hopes of the godly will be granted. When the storms of life come, when disorganization hits, when chaos seems to be reigning, the wicked are whirled away, but